Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 12th episode of the Dasch Cast. My name is Curtis Dash, if you could not figure that out by now, and it is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day out. I am joined with me by a guy who messaged me out of the blue as I was listening to Aaron Rodgers' wonderful podcast with Kyle Brandt. Mr. Brendan Colongo, my co-host. Brendan, say hello.
Hey.
Honestly, that was a terrible intro, and I'm so sorry for that. But we do have a good show. We do have a good show for you guys.
Great show.
And to anybody listening, I have talked to Brandon for several minutes off cast, so it's like I've already done my kissing his ass. Okay, he doesn't need it on the air. He doesn't he doesn't care.
We
But we're
do
just
like it though.
he
I
fair
don't
enough.
need it, but I like it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with the NBA because it's obviously NBA season. You know, the bubble is in full swing. Phoenix is 7-0 at the time of recording this podcast. And I'm obviously a Phoenix advocate with Mr. Devin Booker going off, and he hit that game-winning shot against Paul George over Paul George while Paul George is giving him a high five. So kudos to him. I do have to say we're gonna start with this Jared Dudley thing on Twitter. I mentioned this briefly before the cast, and I'm gonna quote him directly, and I'm gonna get Brendan's thoughts on it, and I think everybody will really enjoy this. So Jared Dudley claimed on Twitter, and I quote, "The Most Improved Player award was made for players that couldn't be the face of the NBA." End quote. What are your thoughts on that, Brandon? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's very harsh, but there's a lot of truth to it. Just because just because you're the most improved player, I mean, that could mean you were terrible, ended up being okay. Like there's just so much you were okay and then you became good. I mean, it's not I, like the only person I could really think of right now that's like, you know, would be like Giannis. That kind of fits into that category where he's kind of like the face of the NBA. But I don't see Giannis at any point being the face of the NBA because we've got LeBron. KD will take the reins. And I'm sure there's going to be a younger player that pops up
Well, so
before. I
Luca
just,
is the one that I immediately want to point out. So, like, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, Luca is very, very good. But I don't see him
100%.
possibly being the face of the NBA.
But so would you take and that's the only reason this quote got brought up for Jared Dudley. Um, he was and it was about Luca directly. Do you think that by Luca winning the most improved player, he can't be an MVP or the face of
No,
the league? Like, how does
no, you can. Yeah, two things can be true. You could be the most improved player. You can then be an MVP from there. You know what I mean? But
I
as a
agree?
whole, the person that has so much room for improvement typically doesn't end up being top five in the league.
100%. I mean, you even all it takes is going back like 10 years and looking at the most improved players. I mean, like, oh, so and so won that. Like, they couldn't have been MVP. Blah 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 blah. Like, gosh,
Yeah, let's
you could
pull
even
up.
say
Let's
the
pull
sixth
up.
man of the year. That's like the kind of how I relate it. I didn't mean to cut you out
Right.
there, but
Yeah, I
like,
can see that.
I like so the sixth man of the year. Leandro Barbosa won that in '06, I believe. I would never say that Leandro Barbosa is going to be the face of the league.
He
I'm
was
not an
never even
idiot.
top 10 in the league at any point.
Agreed, 100% agreed. But he was six
Six
man of the
man.
year.
Right.
So he's gonna get some publicity. He's gonna get some, FaceTime. Obviously, how do you feel about? Do you ever think there's a six man of the year that could go most improved and then go to MVP, or is that like, if you're an MVP, you're coming into the
Obviously
league?
it's possible. You know what I mean? Like, there's different
Nothing's
types of
not possible,
scenarios
kind of thing.
where,
Yeah,
yeah, like there's so many different types of scenarios that could go on. You could be a very, very, very good college player that gets drafted late first round for whatever reason, and then they are the sixth man for that first year. Maybe they don't start, and then they make such an impact. They turn around and get most improved player, and then because they were such a good college player, they end up turning out to be a great professional player. You know what I mean? Like they could win MVPs. I'm not going to
sure.
say it's impossible.
Do you think
Is
it's
like
likely?
if
Right?
we
It's not
no, definitely
likely.
not likely.
Okay.
Yeah, like if we looked back at the 10 people that won it, you know what I mean? If
I'm
we pulled up the history, I'm sure we won't be impressed.
so.
Maybe
What
Manu.
bothers me about like I just felt like the way Jared Dudley, and if I remember correctly, I think Jared Dudley actually won the Sixth Man of the Year award at
That's
one
awesome.
point. Um, I don't appreciate the harsh way he said it. I don't think that's necessarily fair. I just it's a guy who, I mean, Jared Dudley hasn't done anything, yet he can run his mouth. And this is as a Phoenix Suns player. I've watched Steve Nash in person. I have watched Jared Dudley in person play the Pistons. And granted, I was in the rafters. But you know what I saw Jared Dudley do? Hit a couple of random threes. And that's it. And that's all
Right.
he's there for. He talks about being a bench guy and things like that. How does it? How do you think that affects maybe other players' stock? Like, if you win the most improved player hypothetically, do you think that hurts your stock to ever get an MVP award?
No, no.
So here are the last 10 Six Man of the Year awards, right? So we got Lou Williams twice, Eric Gordon, Crawford, Lou Williams, Crawford, J.R. Smith, James Harden back when he was in OKC, and then you got Lamar Odom for the Lakers back in 2010-2011.
There you go. That was the exact scenario I was basically talking about.
It's 100%.
Is Harden the face of the league though? Probably not.
Yeah, well, I think you're gonna have a little bit of argument there, though.
I
I would
agree.
say
I agree. He's one of the most sensational scorers that we've ever seen. And actually, lately they've been playing hellacious defense. He's been stealing the ball all over the place. But I don't know if he quite ever got into that like LeBron upper echelon KD Kawhi. I don't think he's quite there yet. Do you?
man. And as a segue, we will talk about this in our top five. But man, it put me on the spot. I really I don't know. I don't think so. You're right. I mean, it's LeBron or KD probably. Like those are your two guys. But
But
Harden
I could
is a
see him winning
popular player.
MVPs, and that would be a great,
I mean, he's been
a great
runner up like
example of
three
when it's
times.
not exactly. Like that is a pretty good example of, you know what I mean, of what I was basically describing.
Well, so here are the last 10 the most improved players, going from 2019 backwards. Um, Pascal Siakam, Victor Oladipo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Mr. CJ McCollum. You got Jimmy Buckets, your boy, Goran
He's
Dragic,
my boy.
Paul George, Ryan Anderson, Kevin Love, Aaron Brooks, Danny Granger. Which, by the way, I love Danny Granger.
Mm-hmm.
Why he that's so frustrating that's another tangent for another time, but out of the Kevin Love through Siakam names, Giannis Antetokounmpo being in there for 2017 as most improved player, and now he has a chance to get MVP, which is a beautiful segment into what we're
Well,
going
he
to
won
do
MVP
here.
last year, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
So he's already gotten it. With that said, though, I still don't call him the face of the league. And also Siakam, oh man, he was big time.
Siakam
He's a big part of the
not
reason
was,
why they.
is.
He was a big part of the. Well, I'm saying was because they're defending champs right now.
Oh my god.
No, I
First of
hate
all,
it. Trust me.
asterisk.
Do you think I like the fact that Toronto has? No,
By the way, we don't hate Canada on this podcast. We don't. But what I
I'm
do
just
hate
way too pro America.
exactly.
It's
I
nothing
was
against
gonna say
Canada.
that.
It's everything for America, and it's no shade on Canada.
My favorite NBA player of all time is Canadian, Mr. Steve Nash. He is always going to be my number one. And this is another subject we'll probably broach on a different podcast. I would love to hear about your all-time starting five. But I digress. We're going to go ahead and dive into your top five in the NBA because I think people, if they have any inclination to the NBA, are going to be very interested in what you had to say. What you got?
Yeah, so number one, obviously, it's KD. Only because of the head-to-head, him and LeBron. We haven't had a chance. I've just, from what I've seen on the court next year, Brooklyn's going to be my pick, and we're going to leave it at that. Number two, we got Kawhi. I just think at this point in LeBron's career and at this point in Kawhi's career, Kawhi seems to be on the uptick. LeBron obviously is playing great.
He is.
But with that said, I like the Clippers a little better in the head-to-head. I like Kawhi more so in the clutch than LeBron, not by much, because I don't really give Kawhi that much credit as a closer. In fact, Lou Williams is the closer on that team, in my opinion. But I digress. Number 3, LeBron. Obviously, LeBron's been doing great things for a very long time, but I feel like he's always kind of underperformed when it comes to actually getting the rings and actually coming up big in fourth quarters and crunch time.
And ask you a
Yeah.
question? So there's something I was thinking about when we were talking about this. And again, we were talking about this off air before all this. When it comes to LeBron and the clutch gene, and I think we both agree that the clutch factor, and we were talking about your high school days and stuff like that. The clutch factor is a real thing. Like being in front of a crowd and being able to perform is 100% a real thing. People choke. I mean, people choke in everyday life in front of crowds. So, do you really think that LeBron isn't clutch? Do you think that LeBron could be clutch if he was more driving to the basket? If like his game, is
Okay.
there a chance? Okay, I know
I
it's a
see.
loaded
I
question.
get the point of the question is, here's the thing. Do I feel like LeBron is clutch in the biggest of big moments? No. Do I feel like he is clutch 90% of the time? Yes.
That's not clutch
So,
though, right?
exactly. So that's where it gets like, what exactly are we defining clutch as? Because to me, I
Man,
think of clutch as fourth quarter NBA Finals, and that's
two
about it.
minute drive, fourth quarter
It's
NBA Finals, like
that's
overtime.
exactly like that's what I think of as clutch. And so here's what I think and why LeBron is not clutch and why he isn't probably going to be clutch. His free throw percentage isn't
Yes,
high
I
enough.
knew you were immediately going to go for the free throw. And to anybody who's listening, that is a huge deal because if you know anything about basketball and you know what it's like to get fouled in, the last minute of the game, last 30 seconds, last 10 seconds, getting fouled, you got to hit those free throws. Granted, there's a time when you automatically miss, so on and so forth. But anyway,
So yeah, so LeBron is never. In fact, I think he's been all-time bad in late game free throws,
I
and I
agree.
think he is weary and nervous of putting himself in a position where he's got to hit late game free throws. And so I think a lot of times he pulls up and takes this cheap three that's not his strong suit of play
He's
when
never
he's the
been a good
best driver
three-point
of
shooter.
he's the best driver of the basketball to ever play, in my opinion. So that's his strength. However, it also becomes an Achilles heel late in the game because
You can
if he
foul him and he's just going to the line and
and
you
he's
know.
probably only going to make one of two.
I think so. Back when the late Kobe Bryant, rest his soul. Love Kobe, even though he tortured me for years as a Phoenix fan. Um, uh, I always talk to my friends about it, and I would say when you've got 2 points to go in the game, let's say you only need 2 points to tie, a 3 point is to lead. If I only need 2 points, I'm sending LeBron to the basket. No
Right.
questions asked. I'm not thinking twice. That's my guy. If I need anything more than two, I would rather have Kobe. How do you feel about that argument? Is it stupid? Is it silly? What are you thinking?
I agree. Yeah, because that's the thing is when it comes to the 3-point shot, like I don't want LeBron taking the three because even look at what happened to my Heat when LeBron bricked his three.
Oof.
Chris Bosh gets the rebound, kicks it to Ray Allen.
The
For
best
me
shot
from
of
the
all time,
jump,
by the way.
from the jump, I want Ray Allen taking the first shot.
I
let
do
him
have to
let.
say, no, go ahead.
I do have hindsight 2020 on my side, but even from the jump, like me, when you need a three, yeah, I'd rather. I mean, most of the time, there's a guy on that team that I'd rather have taking the shot. Like,
Well,
let's
you
just take
have
the
your
Lakers right
3 point
now. Danny Green.
specialists.
I'd rather Danny Green take that shot.
I don't know. Danny Green's been shooting like crap. You got to look at like
Oh,
recent stats and like
okay, so
percentages.
if we're gonna talk recent, then yeah, I want Kuzma, easy.
Well, maybe recent isn't the right word,
Kuzma's the
but no,
closer on that
Kuzma
team.
is the good answer because I would say like the hot hand at the time. Maybe not recent, I guess. Like whoever's a hot hand at the time, and of course Ray Allen was a hot hand at the time. I'm just gonna go on record for this podcast, and I know I've got people I used to do podcasts with in the past that might listen to this. I called that Ray Allen 3, and I was writing for the farm club on my dad's couch, which is currently where I'm at. Well, I'm actually in a computer chair, but currently in my dad's house, and I called that 3 going in as soon as Ray Allen got the ball. It is, and I will go on record saying, the greatest shot I have ever seen in person of all time. And by in person, I mean on TV. But, oh my lord, what a shot.
Right. Like the actual game, not the
And,
highlights of the game.
LeBron
Yeah.
bricked the living hell out of that, which
Oh,
is just
man.
crazy. Mr. Headband LeBron. Like,
Yeah.
and
Exactly. Okay, so if we can get back to it then. So number 4, I got Steph Curry. He's
you
revolutionized
got the
basketball in
chef
the
on
sense
there,
that,
huh?
yeah. I mean, he's got the rings to back it.
He does.
He's got the accolades. In my opinion, he should have a Finals MVP. I think he was gypped when Andre Iguodala got it because, granted, he was a big momentum. Like Andre Iguodala was a big momentum shifter for that
That's
series.
a good segue, and I'm about to interrupt
But
you after this. But go ahead.
But as a whole, Steph's the reason why they won.
Sure. I think
So
that's 1,000% true, right? Is there anybody that would honestly argue that without the chef, they kind of don't do
I'm gonna
well?
go to football for a second
Sure.
and make you disappointed about me
Oh
bringing
my
up
God,
Tom
you're
Brady. But it's the same thing when Julian Edelman.
I try not
gets,
to swear this entire podcast, and that was it.
when Julian Edelman gets freaking Super Bowl MVP, you're like, no, stop it.
Man.
And then number 5, I'm gonna go with a semi-controversial pick, but got to give it to Clay. And here's why. If Clay was on any other team, he'd be winning MVPs. He'd be winning all of these individual player accolades. Granted, he has the luxury of playing with Steph, and at one point, playing with Steph and KD,
Oof.
which, in my opinion...
And Draymond, by the way. Draymond was a beast during that time.
He is monumentally important to that team. However, as a whole, I don't think he's in the same kind
100%.
of category.
1,000%.
So, here's what I will say. In terms of, like, best duos, Clay and Steph,
Splash
in
Brothers.
my opinion, Clay is a better player than Pippen ever dreamed about being.
I would have...
However, obviously, Curry's not as good as Jordan was, so you kind of have a different type of dynamic. Anyways,
position.
my point was and is that Toronto was going to lose that series had Klay Thompson not torn his ACL. That is still that team. Don't forget, they won, was it 73 games, 72, 73 games?
73-9. Best NBA record in history.
And Klay also, and Klay also with his, I think he has the record for most threes too, if I'm not mistaken on that. So he can light up real quick, and he can also play defense with the best of them.
I mean, Klay's shot is probably just the best of all time.
In my opinion, he's a closer. I feel like he's a closer. I think more of a closer than Steph, actually, which I don't feel like Steph is as much of a closer as people might like to give him credit for. He does obviously have the rings to back up that he's a player that you want on your team with a good winning mindset. With that said, I don't think that the Warriors are the Warriors without Klay Thompson.
Sure.
And I also think he would have a lot more individual accolades if he was playing anywhere else. So I give him pretty much the benefit of the doubt on the actual individual accolades because of the fact that he played with Steph and KD.
So here's the thing about Klay, and we're talking about like if he played on another team and so on and so forth. You know who like the same argument was made back in 2012? James Harden. You remember when he came off the bench and it's like, oh my gosh, he's gonna go start somewhere and then be a beast. And to prove your point, he got traded to the Rockets and became what? He's the leading scorer in the league, easy. He's electric. He's an MVP runner-up 3 or 4 times, maybe 2 or 3 times in a row. I mean, that honestly proves your point. That's a really good way to look at it. I think.
And he has the wins. You know, he has the rings and he has the wins. So the only thing that you would potentially take from him would be the individual accolades. And because of who he played with, I think that you can almost kind of not throw it away because obviously it does have weight, but you can look past it enough to where if I'm going to take someone how am I going to put Giannis who hasn't won squat in front of Klay? I can't. And in fact, having seen Giannis, I'm very disappointed with that little headbutt cheap shot move.
There you go. I'm glad you brought that up. Go ahead. This is all you right here. Let's go.
A, I feel like he should get a longer suspension than 1 game. I feel like he needs to miss a playoff game because the NBA can't just be letting that happen. We don't want to watch this. This isn't boxing. This isn't UFC. I want to watch basketball. And if someone is giving you cheap fouls or hard fouls, foul them back on the court in the context of the game. Use that to your advantage. Hey, you fouled me hard. Well, guess what? You have this layup right here.
Get hurt.
I'm about to foul you hard, and you're going to see how much you like it, and it's going to be one of those games. But don't turn around and headbutt the guy, get yourself suspended. That's mentally weak to me.
Yeah.
And that's all that I see from Giannis is mentally weak in big moments.
Oof.
And
we're going after Giannis.
I am. Because I just think it's an embarrassment to the sport when players can't control themselves. And especially against the Wizards.
Yeah, that's a tough sell. I mean, you're right. Giannis, a former MVP, 2018-29 MVP. You got to control yourself into that kind of concept, and I understand he gets frustrated. He's human. He's going to act out. And to your credit, come on, man. If you want to be the face of the league, so I was watching, shout out to SB Nation here. I was watching, I don't know if you pay attention to any of that, but SB Nation has the beef history stuff, and I was watching the Larry Bird and Bill Laimbeer beef, which I am a northerner. As much as I've got a Florida ID, as much as I consider myself a nomad, I jump around from place to place. I am a northerner. I grew up north. I dealt with snow, and I still hate it to this day. I despise the Pistons. I sincerely do. And then you have somebody like Bill Laimbeer and Larry Bird going at it, and they're talking about it all the time. It's just interesting how that kind of works. Like, oh man, with the Giannis stuff, and like back in the day, they don't call that HUD. I had watched a clip for a minute. It might have been Charles Oakley that actually hit, not Bill Laimbeer, to Laimbeer's credit. But there was a fight on the court at the time. Nobody got a technical. Nobody got a foul. Nothing happened. And granted, this is back in 1988 or 86 or whenever the hell it was. But, none of that happened. Now, Antetokounmpo comes out, headbutts somebody, and bam. Suspension, 1-game suspension. Now, has a league going softer hurt players like Antetokounmpo, or has it excelled players like Harden, who gets every foul call literally this side of the Mississippi?
So just because Giannis was willing to take a cheap shot at someone on the Wizards doesn't make me say that he is like one of those tough old-time basketball guys that's like that like when I think of that, I think of like Patrick Beverley. Like, he's going to get all up in your grill. He's going to play football, basketball, and he's going to do it like in the context of the game. Like, that's what I think is big about it. Yeah, obviously back then they weren't policing the game the same way they are now. However, I like the fact, I think you have to police the game more nowadays to kind of discourage that type of behavior, because chippy basketball is great. Fighting is unacceptable.
All right, so I have to put you on the spot here. This is my job, obviously. You played basketball growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Not only did you play basketball, you excelled while playing.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there ever a time on the court you're like, nah, this ain't chippy anymore, we're going to town?
Not for me. Because I always just looked at, first off, we were usually the better team. And so there was no chance that I was going to put myself in a position to get suspended.
You've never been that mad to just go at somebody?
I have, but usually what happens is the refs step in at some point. You can go to the ref. I was great at getting people technicals. If someone cursed at me, I made sure that the ref. I would go to the. If this guy threw an F-bomb or something to where I think to A, the official heard it, or B, I think he might have been questioning whether he heard it. I'd be looking at the official like, hey, you heard that, right? Like, seriously? You're not going to call that? And then as soon as he goes with the tech, I'm going to look at the guy and be like, man, you messed up, bro. Good.
Did you ever
way to think about your team.
Did you have a celebration?
I'll guilt him. Yeah, I'll make him feel bad about it too, and he
Did
should feel bad about it.
did you ever like wave them away or pull like the cradle or the shimmy out back in the
Oh
day?
no,
Like
I mean, I was a definitely. I'll talk all day. Yeah, I had some definitely like chippy conversations.
I told you I'd
Some
bring this up on the air. I told
yeah,
you.
yeah. We especially come playoffs because there's different types of competitors.
I agree.
Some guys will I
Fold?
how, I wouldn't say fold. Like some
Yes.
guys want to be
No.
your friends
Say
too.
it.
Like if we're playing in the playoffs, like and I know a couple of the guys in the team, I'm literally gonna pretend like I don't know you before a game. It's not until
Oh,
after the
before
game and we've won that
I'm
I'm
not
gonna
that
be
guy.
like, oh, what's up, my bud? You know what I mean? So like everyone's kind of different in the way that they approach the
I
game.
agree. See,
If
go ahead.
whoever I'm playing against, like I hate them for the 40 minutes that we're playing.
So for
Sorry,
me,
32.
I would like, it's the same thing like during the game, we're not friends. Don't give me a hug. Don't shake my hand. Don't help me up. Before the game, fine. After the game, great. In the 48 minutes, or how long was high school basketball? 10 minutes a
32.
period? Or, yeah, exactly. So 8 minutes a period. Like, during that period, just no. We're not buddies.
Right.
After the game, before the game, I'll dap you up. I'll say hi, what's up? Like, good luck. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna beat your ass. After the game, hey, good game, so on and so forth. And I was trying not to swear this entire cast, and it got me. Dang it! But at the yeah, I would. So you're not in the same like you know if it's you and I
Let's just
playing in
say
the
this.
playoffs, I
Let's
would
say
take a
this.
bullet for you. But
If
during the game, don't talk to me.
Yeah, so let's just say this. If you're hard fouling me in the game and I don't like it,
Mm.
I'm about to wait until a very big moment where I can make an impact, and I'm gonna hard foul you
See,
back.
you're
I'm
mentally
gonna take it out
strong.
on the court.
That's
I'm gonna find a way where it makes sense and it's gonna benefit the team to give you karma. And I'm not gonna ruin my own karma by doing it not in the context of the game and getting myself in trouble.
I wish, I've got an interesting story here. I remember being in high school basketball, and I think we told this story before. I rode the bench a lot, and so on and so forth. And I'll never forget our starting point guard after it was a tough loss. I think we lost by like 4, but it wasn't really like that far away. It really felt like a one-shot game. And I'll never forget our starting point guard, and I won't name his name because I'm not that mean. I've considered it because I really don't like him. But our starting point guard like mouthed off to the ref, and he was like, "Hey, if you're not gonna effing call this, I'm gonna just effing beat your blank." And as a player who rode the bench, I love that because there's every part of me that doesn't get a call for a ref, and I'm like, I'm coming to your family's house. I don't care. You're getting backhanded so hard, you're gonna be as bald as I am. Like, as a player, 100%. But he did the right thing, and granted, I'll never forget going into the locker room and being like, so and so talked to the ref. He could have gotten suspended. And as a selfish player, I was thinking in my head, great,
Perfect.
sweet, I might get some playing time,
Yeah.
you know. But that's obviously not what happened. It was just a lesson like do not talk smack to the refs, especially if you're gonna swear at them. And for the record, it's not like I was 20. We weren't like in our adulthood. We were like
Right. You're
16,
kids.
17, 18, and I get it. Like you shouldn't swear at the ref when you're young. I get it when you're older. I
Really, any adult.
wholeheartedly get it. And well, and another thing about swearing, I think that's very interesting. And you and I talk about it off the air, and like I won't bring it into the cast because it's nothing negative. I think when it comes to swearing, is I use it a lot as an adjective, or a verb to explain, how angry I am, which I guess is an adjective. But when I say I'm effing angry or something like that, like it's not I hate I'm not swearing at you. I'm just that angry, and I think a lot of people are the same way. How do you feel about that? Like, put yourself in a referee. Like, how do you feel if somebody's like, "Hey, Brandon, that was an effing terrible call. F you, I'm out."
Yeah, I mean, I
F
think
you is
like
the
as
right
a
thing.
ref, okay, so as any person in general, you have to have a baseline level of respect. If you're gonna have to treat me with a certain amount of respect, just period, because I'm a man,
Yeah,
and
I mean, you're
just
an
be
adult, man.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna call me effing anything, I'm teeing you up.
Oof.
Period. End of discussion. Just because I deserve to be treated with respect, and if I'm not reffing your game,
So
so
what if they
you,
say that's effing bull blank? Like, how do you feel about that
oh,
call?
that's fine. I mean, it
That's
depends. Like,
okay
we're gonna look at the rule book. If the rule
for
book
you. I
says
mean, I
that
mean,
you're not allowed to just throw an F bomb out there because there's kids
sure,
around, like
okay,
then
yeah.
obviously, yeah, to maintain fairness, like what? Because
You
then what
gotta
happens
call it then,
if the
yeah.
other team then does it, and then I call it, or I don't call it, and now all of a sudden it's happening all the time. You know what I mean? And we're just letting a rule slip. You can't let a rule slip when you're officiating. You have to get them all equally.
I agree. I agree. How do you feel on the field? So, for anybody that's not listening, Brandon plays flag football, and hopefully this season's going to go off without a hitch and so on and so forth. But do you ever get? Do you ever? Would you swear at a player, or do you get sworn at? Would you swear at a ref? Like, how does that work?
So you're not
When
allowed to swear
and
at
you're an
players.
adult, like
You're gonna get a flag. So I don't do it. With that said, if you're gonna
I'm
be
getting flagged all the
if
time.
yeah, so if you're gonna be respectful with me, like if you pull my flag and you pick it up and hand it to me, like you're probably actually gonna get, I don't want to say a less good version out of me, because I'm gonna carry the same respect your way. If you trash talk me even once, you are done. You are done in my eyes. You're dead. I want to beat you. I want to embarrass you. And then I'm going to point the scoreboard and I'm going to say, hey, remember when you trash talked?
Let's go.
Guess what?
I
So
agree.
so that's pretty much how I rule. If you're gonna, your best chance of beating me is playing with the nice gloves, because then I'm gonna play with the nice gloves and you're not gonna get me at my best,
I
most
think
likely.
as somebody like I'm competitive, but I'm competitive in different things. Like I wish I could outplay you in flag football. I can't. I'm short, fat, bald. My legs hurt. I can't do it. Now I have played basketball with you before, and I did not do terribly. I am just gonna throw that out there. And I was really good. Well, I was. I got a participation medal when I used to play at Joe's all the time. All right, like I was good back in the day, but when it comes to actually playing, against your friends and so on and so forth, when you get someone like that is just running their mouth in an exhibition game or a game that doesn't matter, are you willing to take a step back, or are you like, okay, cool, I'm literally gonna burn this guy?
I mean, like, it depends what you mean by like exhibition. Yeah, if we're playing in a season
Like a
with
pickup
like
game.
refs and stuff, yeah, but even in pickup games, I do like getting a little chippy. Like, yeah, if it's a personal friend and they're probably going to be smart in terms of not saying anything that's going to really piss me off to any extent in particular. You know what I mean?
I don't
Like, we're
remember
going to treat
talking
each other.
smack to you that much during the game. We were on opposite teams for anybody listening.
Also,
Gosh.
yeah.
And
Also,
by the
if
way,
you
I had
know
a six
me,
pack of Yingling,
you
but
know that you just, if you want to bring out the best in me, just
oh
trash
yeah,
talk me.
you instantly just start shoving you and talking shit. Not to be rude, obviously. I'm not. I would never do that. Like I would never just be like, oh yeah, screw this guy and start shoving you. But if I really want to get the best out of you, and but that's what I would do as your teammate. I would start punching you because I need 50 points a game from you, Brandon. I don't have time for you to get warmed up. Which sounds like a terrible thing to say, but some people work that way. And it's
Don't get
very
me wrong. I
interesting.
still have great games when teams don't trash talk me.
I would agree with that.
It's not a necessity. I'm just saying that the off games that I've had were on days that the other team just respected me as a good player. Didn't try their luck with anything. They didn't say anything too smart, and I just was off that game.
And I know I talked about this off the air, and I told you I was going to ask about this on the air here. I have to ask, and I'm going to ask again, and I know you're just going to be like, please stop asking stupid question. Is there a time, or is there a player? Everybody's going to get burnt at some point, right? You know,
Of course.
blank happens. Yeah, it happens. Whatever. Is there a player or a time that you can look back on that maybe you ran your mouth a tad too much and couldn't back it up? Because everybody likes it, everybody wants to hear the story of you burning people. And don't get me wrong, I love seeing it because you're not burning me. I don't care who you burn.
So
But
yeah, I was very careful not to trash talk for the most part, unless it was like a situation where they're trash talking first. I'm very quick. Like if you start it, I'll take it to level 10 and keep it there. But very hesitant to just outright go there. Now, yes, I will tell you, when I was in 10th grade, I was a starting corner on the varsity football team, and we played Marathon, and it was a big public school. I don't know how or why we played it necessarily. I'm guessing because it was in the Keys, and there obviously is only so many public schools that the Keys could play.
I mean, it's the Keys.
So, long story short was Marathon Key, I didn't realize that they had what I would probably say is someone that was as fast as me when I was a senior. But when I was a sophomore, I wasn't quite that fast yet. And when I say this guy ran a bomb and I was with him for about 15 yards or so, quarterback launched it probably 40 yards in the air, and he had 5 yards on me, 15 yards away from the end zone. And when I'm talking about, like, I not only didn't catch him, he continued while catching the ball to gain pace on me. And I said, oh, man, he does not get a 5-yard cushion. He gets a 10-yard cushion here on out.
Now, for anybody listening, it's not that I'm trying to bury Brandon, or I'm not trying to bring up like negative things. I'm not trying to be like that at all, because I had noticed this the other day. Like, I am very passionate about whatever it is I'm competing in. I play to win the game. I don't play for fun. And it's fun,
same.
blah 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 blah. I play to win the game. The thing is if I have a chance and I think I'm better than you, and you say a word to me, my brain instantly flips the switch, and I'm like, cool, I'm burying that guy and his entire family afterwards. There's no one that's going to walk. And there are times in high school, like high school basketball, and we talked about this on air last time, high school basketball, it's like, I can't play on the starting team, which is fine, whatever. And you see, like, you learn to respect good game. And I'm probably gonna bury myself by saying this. You learn to respect good game as a mediocre player. I know that sounds really stupid, but I did tell the story off the air to you, and I think people will enjoy this. We had our star point guard, and by star I'm gonna use that in quotes because I've got nothing positive to say. Absolutely nothing positive. He shouldn't have been a star point guard. The guy was mediocre. He was a middle of the lane shooter. I have no idea how he found the broads out of the barn, but it helps when you got a last name. But he got crossed over, and I was riding the bench, and we lost the game on a game-winning shot after he got crossed over, and we all stood up on the end of the bench like, oh my god, that was the greatest shot I've ever seen.
I've never seen a buzzer beater in action before.
And it's exactly what it was. Like, never seen that, in action, real time. He hit the shot. Oh, yeah. Oh, crap. That was the opposite team. But, dude, did you see him get crossed? Like, let's go.
Here's one thing that I'm going to point out to you that you might not have considered. Some of the people that were the stars of their teams also have a good appreciation for that type of high-quality basketball, because most of us also played up and were role players up. So, like, when I was 12, let's say, I played with 13 under kids every once in a while just because I wanted to play as much as I could.
Sure.
And I might be a six-man on that team. Still important, like a good shooter. But, I wasn't like the guy. And I've seen a lot of buzzer beater at the buzzer shots in my day.
For me, oh man.
Just because of the sheer amount of basketball that I played.
Sure, and and to be fair, like, most of my stuff is 2-on-2, best of 7, and it's guys I went to high school with for years. It's people I still talk to. Justin, if you're listening, one of you. It's people that I played against. I went to, and I'm gonna put this in quotes, war with or against guys that I played every day. And then, a buzzer beater doesn't happen there because we aren't,
Right.
we're not timed. But when you're riding the bench, or you only get an X amount of time, and you see something like that happen,
it's cool.
It was cool. And plus, 18-year-old me, to no surprise for anybody listening, was headstrong. If I didn't like you, that was it. There was no talking me into how good you were at X, Y, and Z. Didn't matter how much you dominated for what you did. If I didn't like it, cool, whatever. You got crossed. That was the greatest moment of my life. Obviously, I'm still talking about it 12 years later.
And here's the thing, though. I will point out.
Shut up.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead.
It's yeah, when you're on the bench and you feel like you should be in the game, and you see someone not perform, you're not like cheering about it. You're just like really upset about the situation because you're just like, I should be out there
I mean,
helping
as
the
a
team win,
player, I'm
and
like,
we lost this game because I wasn't on the court, and that's like
see, I
that's
never. I don't know if I would.
that's how I
I
felt.
would go that far, but I was gonna ask you, like, as a player, and yeah, I'm sure you would probably think, like, "Ah, dude, I need to be on the floor," and I might have thought that, especially when I was young. I probably would have punched somebody, honestly. But as a player now, do you ever look back on moments like that and go, I probably shouldn't have been out there? Or are you like, there is no chance in hell I should have been on the floor. You all are wrong. I'm going to make you, like, realize that.
Oh no, I mean, of course, yeah. So at the time, I still look back and think, my impact. I was there's no like humble way of saying it. I was pretty much always the best player on the team, almost regardless of the
Sometimes you
sport.
don't have to be humble when you're good, man. You don't have to be humble
With
when
the
you're good.
exception of baseball, I won't claim that I was ever the best player on the baseball team, although I
I
did
did
make a
hear a
big
baseball
impact.
story.
I,
Hold on,
I
you
was a
got to
big
tell that.
impactful player. We'll get to that in a second. I was definitely an impactful player, but I never felt like I was the best player on that team
Sure.
because we did have a stud shortstop who ended up playing college ball, obviously. So he was the best player on that team. Period. Um,
Good for him, by the way.
yeah, yeah. So in terms of
Just
like
blows it off.
football, I always felt like I should have been playing quarterback, and I played receiver, and I felt like I didn't get enough touches because I played receiver, and I was probably a better receiver than our quarterback would have been a receiver. But with that said, you want to put the ball in the best player's hands more often. And we did a scrimmage before the season where I was playing quarterback with the quote unquote. It wasn't the backup team because we'd mix and match the starters, but my team had won the game in the head to head
Sure.
against the other quarterback. So so when we went, there was like 2 or 3 games I remember that I feel like we would have won if I was playing quarterback. Granted, I didn't have the actual you can't look back at it and say like, oh yeah, well he played quarterback in this game and did a really great job because I didn't get to play quarterback in virtually any of the games because he didn't get hurt or anything. So I just played receiver, and but as far as when we played head to head, I won that game, and I do feel like some of the plays that we went like kind of halfway. Some of the games that were close, like I think we would have won if I was playing quarterback, and I still play quarterback on flag football nowadays. So it's not like, yeah, I don't ever really look back and think like, no, yeah, it was fine that I wasn't on the court. Almost any time that I was benched or didn't start, I later proved that I feel like I proved, hey, actually, yeah, it looks like he was right all along. Similar to how Tom Brady didn't get to play in college in Michigan until,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So like and I hate to like, any throw past coaches under the bus or anything like that. You know what I mean? So it's
No,
like,
yeah, yeah, like completely understand. Like I said, I don't. I'm not. I
I'm sure
won't
Tom Brady
name.
looks back at his past at Michigan and thinks we
Oof,
probably would have won
oof.
2 national championships if I
He
could have just
has
gotten the nod.
to. I'm a six-time Super Bowl winner, and you didn't want to start me in this game. Ha! Like he's got to. I mean, I think that way. When I went in a pickup basketball game, I am that person, and I try not to be. I honestly try not to be. There are people that I've watched get crossed over, or people that I've watched just lose, or that didn't treat me, and I'm gonna use this in quotes, well, because they weren't mean. I mean, I'm
Right.
5'7", like
Yeah.
I had
It's
little
high
man
school
syndrome
stuff.
to a T. But like, there are times I'm like, oh my god, I would never have done that. How did you do that? Do you have the basketball
What are you
IQ of a
thinking?
duck? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
what's going on? And then I start thinking about it, and it also helps that I've got 14 years down the line, or X amount of years down the line. I'm like, you probably shouldn't have been that way. I mean, and that's why I like bringing up those stories. And we have to talk about your baseball stuff. And I know you were trying to get out of it by not bringing it up, but we got to talk about it because we talked about this off air. For anybody listening, we talked about this off air. I was like, so I like dad, or I might have been mom that made me play baseball, and I went to a small town in Michigan, and I was bad. But holy crap, I was Barry Allen. I was the fastest man alive on that team. I couldn't hit. I couldn't throw. There were days I couldn't hit off a T-ball, and it helps being, again, in my 30s and recognizing, probably shouldn't have done that for a living. And thankfully, obviously, that's not what happened. But we have to talk about you hitting ninth and going MVP yard. You gotta tell that story.
Okay, so I didn't go yard.
Yes, you did. Let's
I was
go.
I was a freshman, and if you see my window, so I have a couple of trophies there. One of them is near and dear to my heart. It was we won our district championship in baseball. I was the ninth hitter as a DH as a freshman.
Now wait for anybody who doesn't understand baseball. You hit ninth.
Yep.
Ninth. Last. Ninth. Like, think about
But
that,
don't forget,
guys.
I've always had the clutch gene.
No. Like, I'm not taking anything away from you at all. At all. I think, if anything, I'm adding to it.
Thank you.
Ninth, man. Ninth. And you're about to go. Tell the story. I'll
Okay,
shut up.
so yeah. So we have a guy on third. You know, there's 2 outs. It's bottom of the 7th, and I get a nice fastball from our arch rival, Archbishop Curley, and I hit it right down the first base
Do you
line. It
remember
would
the
have been a
pitcher's
triple.
name?
No, he was good though.
I was hoping you'd call him out. That's the only reason.
No, I don't remember. I don't remember his name, unfortunately. I actually could find it too. I could shoot a couple texts and get the name, but it's not that important. I don't want to put my man on blast. Don't want to put my man on blast. But with that said, yeah, it probably would have been a triple, honestly. But you don't get to get the fun of getting the triple. And yeah, everyone was there. It was cool. Like, I had a lot of classmates there that all got super excited. I had a girlfriend at the time there. Both parents. Huge game, and yeah, no, it's a really surreal experience to hit a walk off.
Now, for anybody,
especially for a championship.
Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably care about sports. I would say in the same concept, or you enjoy Brennan and myself, like, you understand what it is like to hit that game winner or that walk off. There is no feeling quite like it, in my opinion.
Especially because it was for a championship. Because I had a couple of basketball
crazy,
regular season buzzer beaters, but I never had a basketball, like, win the district championship buzzer beater.
Is there a moment in your sports highlights that you think tops that, or no?
The walk-off in the district championship?
I have to ask. Come on. I'm a reporter.
I don't know if I could pick a favorite. I don't know if I could pick a favorite because
no, bullshit. See,
I guess it's got to. No, you know what? I got to give it to. Actually, I guess because it was for a championship, I'll give it to that. But I do have another pretty good story about a huge comeback.
Please.
My regional. Yeah. So in my 11th grade year, when I was elected to the All-State team and everything in basketball, we had
flexing on everybody that's listening. Just saying, Brandon is flexing. Here we go.
Well, the only reason why I bring it up is because we went to actual state playoffs, which technically the regional championship is a state playoff. The regional semifinal game, Archbishop Curley, we'd beaten them twice during the season. They were definitely our toughest opponent for sure in terms of, like, who we actually played in our conference, and they're a rival. But we had beaten them both times in the regular season. And in this, it just so happened that our point guard, because I actually played the 2, it just so happened that our point guard was.
How tall were you when you played the 2? How tall?
About 5'8".
You and I are about the same height, right? Like, well,
I honestly felt like I should have played point guard, but I didn't get to coach the team. I should have. I feel like I should have played point guard, honestly, but it's fine.
As he says, I'm not calling any coaches out, but I should have played point guard.
Yeah, all the best coaches I ever had, they put me at point guard, so I'm just gonna say that. Now, okay,
snap.
With all that said, anyways, it just so happened that our starting point guard was having an off game shooting the ball, and Curley, for whatever reason, was on fire. They just could not miss a shot that game, and they took a real early, like, basically 10-0 lead. Okay. And we scratched and clawed our way back into that game. I had probably one of the best games of my career in terms of, like, keeping us in the game. Like, when they went on that 2-run, who responded with the 3 in the corner, your boy, and and just kind of right when we needed to, we would cut them off and just kind of keep ourselves in the game is all we could really do. And I just remember distinctly at one point we were down probably 6 in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes to go, and they kept because we played a zone defense, we did a really good zone defense. They kept trying to hold the ball and just kill the clock. So there was one point I remember distinctly. Our power forward, he was like really down. Like, we had just fouled him. They were going to the line to shoot 2 free throws. They're up by like 6. There's like 2 minutes left, and I just went to him and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna win this game. Trust me." And sure enough,
oh snap!
We I don't know what it. I don't remember the exact scenario, but I hit a big three that pretty much put us down by 3 or something along those lines. We ended up with a free throw, and the next thing we knew, we were down by 2 with the ball in like 30 seconds, and we just I believe it was me actually. I passed it to Brett, and he had been having an off game, but he sunk the biggest, clutchest three right there to give us that nice little 1-point lead, and they took their half-court shot to miss, and we won
that was all she wrote.
And we went to the regional championship that year.
All right, so I'm gonna ask a question that honestly I don't expect you to answer. I really don't, because as somebody who plays sports or used to play sports or has a competitive edge or competitive mindset, is there a time when you're up there like, oh man, trying to hit that free throw or pulling up from behind the line when you're down to hit the three? Do you ever get nervous as a clutch player?
I think some players probably get nervous. I didn't
I
get
didn't
nervous in
ask that.
basketball.
Yeah, that's what I. No.
I never got nervous in basketball. Now,
Never?
what I did get, cross country, oh my goodness. Before every cross country meet, I would be so nervous.
Why?
I wanted
so,
to die.
What's the
much.
difference? Not like I mean
I was so confident in myself and my abilities and how much basketball I played,
Sure.
and I didn't ever doubt myself really.
Was your
With
cross country before your basketball?
And also
ours was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, that was the thing too, was basketball was fun to me, whereas cross country, I literally exerted myself so much that it was painful to me.
Basketball was fun.
The thing about cross country that would make me nervous is I knew that I was about to push myself. I pretty much puked at the end of every cross country meet. So I literally knew the pain and suffering I was about to put my body through beforehand, and I just hated the day. Almost like probably 5 hours before, I just started to hate my life for the next. I'm like, oh my god, I know. And right,
okay. What about
I never got nervous for football or baseball or
that's
basketball.
what I was getting ready to ask. I was like,
just cross country.
I know it's flag football, and I get that it's probably, and people will probably give me crap for that. But like, it's not necessarily the NFL. But for me, I don't care what. Like, to digress, for me, I don't care what I'm competing in. I am very competitive. If it's video games, like I got into a giant argument with a buddy of mine last night about Gears of War 5. Shout out to Gears of War 5. I play to win. There's no hesitation. There's no like, it's just a game. I do not care. I play to win. If you don't play to win, don't play with me. I get it. But is there ever a time you go into a match that you're like, we are so screwed?
No, never once did I think that. And it's funny too, because we played against some teams where, like, even to this day, okay, so our regional championship game, we played Sagemont, who proceeded to beat us by 20 points. They then beat the state semifinal finalists by 20 points, which I believe was Providence. And then they turned around and won the state championship by 20 points. So all things aside, and I did play, I had an off game that night for sure. And granted, it made sense because they had a 6'9" center, 6'6" small forward that went to UCF. I was actually the shortest player on their team. If I would have played on their team, I would have been the shortest player. Now, and also their game plan was really heavy centric on like taking me out of the game.
Now, there's no time when you're, doing flag football and you're going head to head with people. Is there honestly a time, and I'll cut it out even if you don't want it there. But
and before you say that, let me just add this one point. I feel like if we'd have played them 10 times, or if we'd have played them 5 times, we would have beat them twice. Because I know that, like, I think I only hit like 3 threes that game. I might not have even hit that many. I might have hit. They had a guy that
like you were cold.
I was off that game for sure. Yeah.
No, you say off. Go ahead and admit it. Not like timeout.
They took me out of the game, and yeah, sometimes you do.
As a shooter, man, you go cold. It happens, and I can't explain it.
I was streaky too. I was streaky. Like there was 1 or 2 games where I think I hit like 8 of 11 threes. So I could vary. So, but anyways, moral of the story was they had a guy that was probably 6'3" guarding me, and he did a good job. He was physical too. He was definitely stronger than me. Looked like he worked out. I was a twig back then, and he pushed me around a little bit. It was hard to get open. They had a 6'9" guy at the basket, and I was either hitting the 3 or a deep three, or I was going straight to the basket completely trying to get a foul and finish
So the
with a
scouting
layup of some
report
sort.
on you, more or less, was simple.
I wouldn't say it was simple because we had lots of plays where they
No,
were
on
designed for me
you,
to get
not on the
threes.
team, not on you. Or, excuse me, not on the team, on you. I know you're only going to shoot the three. I know you rarely go to the basket. You know what I'm
No, I
doing?
go to the basket a lot. No, I do go to the
Or,
basket a lot.
excuse me.
When I go to the basket, I'm not taking a mid range. Most likely is what you.
If you go to the
I have.
basket,
I had a nice little floater. I'm a
what I don't
great
get,
passer
man,
last second, and I also am very good at not getting
you're
blocked
my
despite
height.
my size.
If you're going to the basket against somebody
I
like
know it's
me,
crazy.
I am clotheslining you. Absolutely. Like, but I think you would do the same. Like, I'm not saying I'm a better player, but I think you are a great player when it comes to things like that. I really don't see you just standing there and letting me clothesline you. If I go back to the basket after that, you're like, nah, yep, this
Oh,
guy's gonna
oh
die.
yeah, there were lots of people that tried to block me, and they got kneed right in the nuts.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Now, I'll never forget. I know this is a random tangent. I'll never forget. I was throwing oops in Central Michigan, up there playing, visiting the Admiral for basketball, and like we played. And I always wear my not like Steve Dash orange jersey because I like to stand out. And for the record, I was younger at one point, had a lot of hair, and was good at basketball. So I like to stand out. And I'll never forget throwing out oops to this one guy who was my Joe Johnson for the team. Any Phoenix fans will appreciate that. I'll never forget throwing an oop to my boy, Joe Johnson, we'll call him, and a guy that I drove up there, Kyle Bowers. If you ever listen to this, love you, great dude, freaking amazing basketball player. 3 times the point guard I ever would have been. I'm gonna say this on record. I know this is a tangent. We're running over an hour, but it's super important. Kyle Bowers, if you ever listen to this podcast, you should have been the starting point guard for our team. And not only should you have been the starting point guard for our team, for every team. Holy crap, you're brilliant. You only made good passes. You only took good shots. And even playing pickup basketball, I could never fault you for doing things wrong because it didn't happen. But he was on the opposite team at the time, and I remember throwing an oop, and I told my dad this story not long ago. Threw an oop to the Joe Johnson guy, and Kyle didn't want to get dunked on, so guy's in midair, and Kyle wraps him up, gives him a big fucking hug, and a huge, just wraps him up, huge hug, and Kyle's my height, and he's like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I just don't want to get dunked on anymore." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I would literally just uppercut me. I understand. Thank you for just not hurting me." So
fair enough.
I love stories like that. I love stories of pickup basketball. I love stories of pickup football. And we are definitely running into our hour mark here. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. We have so much to talk about coming soon. We're gonna have talk about the NBA bubble. If Phoenix plays on Thursday, or well, that obviously going to play on Thursday. If Phoenix wins on Thursday, that'd be awesome. I would love for them to upset LA so I can just run my mouth until the Eastern Seaboard
Wait,
just.
today's Thursday. Today's Thursday. It's fine. It's Thursday.
If Phoenix win. You know what? I'm hiring a new co-host. If anybody. We didn't even talk about Travis Kelce. We gotta get Travis Kelce, George Kittle. There's so much things we have to talk about still. We're hitting the hour mark. I use this entire podcast to put Brandon on on the spot, but I hope that anybody listening understands the reason I do that is because I want you guys to know who you're listening to and how you feel. Like we
Oh
are
yeah,
players.
if you guys want, you can type in Brandon Colongo on YouTube and pull up my senior and junior year highlights.
Well, and for anybody listening, we're going to talk about a lot of that because I'm going to be there commentating on stuff. We're going to make montages. Brandon's going to know the internet is ready. They have to know. They have to know.
Oh
And
boy.
it's going to be a lot of fun. And anybody who knows us obviously knows it's going to be just a ton of fun. Um, I don't want to cut the cast off, man. We got to talk about college football.
I know.
There's
I know.
so many things.
We'll
There's
do
just
another
so
one. We'll
many.
do another one
We're gonna
soon.
have
We'll
to.
upload it ASAP. We promise.
man, there's so much to talk about. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Brandon, again, thank you for joining me. You
Absolutely.
are amazing. This was a great podcast. I hope you guys listen to us next week. I hope you guys understand. We're coming at you live. Well, our version of live. Every week, we got you. Listen to this beautiful podcast. And if you don't like the Packers, do not subscribe. I don't care what Brandon says. Thank you guys for joining us.